Everybody, you're listening to the JMCC podcast. Just to start things off really quick, we're, I believe, 2 weeks behind on this, but we are going to start off with E3 because we never really got around to doing a podcast. Last time we just ended up playing games instead
Pretty
of
much.
doing the podcast.
Look, playing Super Smash Bros. 4 is hard work, okay?
Yeah.
Especially when you're constantly getting your ass kicked by both Terrence and Derek on a continuous basis. Seriously, I consistently got 5th place. I don't know why.
You won one of them, though. You did win.
Only one, with a character I'm complete shit at.
Robin?
No, Rosalina.
Close.
Okay. So, E3.
Well, we can go with Smash Brothers. Oops, thought my phone was on silent. Sorry about that.
It could have mine, actually.
With E3, of course, like any E3, there's always like winners and losers and stuff like that. And I would personally say that Sony kind of won again this year. I feel like they did last year as well. But Nintendo is the one who really, really messed up. And I mean, it was... I typically feel the same whenever they do a conference, honestly. It was the same as that last year because they started really high. I remember last year, it was like they started with Pikmin 3 and it was like, oh, everybody was happy. And then from there, it was like totally downhill. It was like other stuff that was like sort of so-so. But they started with like the one game everyone really wanted to see.
I think last year they did pretty well because back then Smash 4 hadn't come out yet. Mario Kart 8 had only just come out. Hyrule Warriors hadn't come out yet. Splatoon hadn't come out yet.
Yeah, so Splatoon got announced last year. I actually
that
thought...
was really fast for Splatoon, yeah.
I thought Nintendo's E3 was actually the only one I actually bothered to see that year. And I remember it being really good, honestly. I think it was just this year, from what I've heard, they've, busted their proverbial wrist.
Yeah, like last year, it was, like I said, like they did have some good stuff. They did have like the announcements, but it was like they started off, because I think last year, didn't they have a conference and the Nintendo Direct last year? And this year they just did their Direct.
They had the Treehouse after the Direct.
Yeah, but last year they had like specifically a conference and the Direct, right, online?
Don't remember there being a conference.
They didn't have a conference.
Just the Direct, okay. Then I think then I guess it was 2 years ago when they did that, where they started with Pikmin 3 then. Because I remember that was on
probably.
stage, yeah.
You didn't watch Nintendo's conference last year, did you?
I watched it. I just don't remember. I was thinking Pikmin 3 was last year. I thought they had a conference, but I guess last year was when they started doing the Nintendo Direct instead of the conferences. But I do remember it a little because that was when they announced like the Legend of Zelda. So I guess that one was better than the one I was thinking of, which was 2 years ago. But this one kind of went back to the one that was like 2 years ago, where they announced some cool stuff. Like off the top, they had like Star Fox Zero, which I think everyone was excited for. So it was a good start. And then it kind of went into a bunch of other games. Like there were other great announcements in there too. Like I still think Mario Maker looked really cool, and I'm still excited for that to come out, which I believe is still later this year. I think like September or something. Mm-hmm. So that's a fast turnaround, like Splatoon was from last year. Although I've never seen a game come out as fast as Splatoon did, where it was announced and it was out less than a year after it was actually announced from last year. But really, it was like Star Fox. They had the Super Mario, like the RPG mixed with Paper Mario. I thought that was actually really cool.
Yeah.
Mario and Luigi Paper Jam.
Yeah, I thought that actually looked really cool because I liked the Paper Mario games, and I really loved the Mario and Luigi games because they're very close to like the Mario RPG games, as close as they've made them since then. And I thought they all worked out really well, and so it seems like it would be really cool.
Yeah, that game is essentially basically crossing over the Mario RPG game I grew up with Mario RPG game my younger brother grows up with.
Yeah,
so that's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, that one seems like it'll be really fun to play, and like I said, Star Fox. But really, that's kind of it. I think like those two.
I was just talking about that a few minutes ago. They started off hot with the Smash Brothers announcements, Earthbound Beginnings, Mother 1 coming out to the US, and Star Fox Zero. But after that, most of it was just games, and they did talk about releasing more amiibo. Yeah. And by more amiibo, I mean more characters to be made into amiibo.
Yeah.
They didn't say anything about it being any easier to find them.
And it probably won't be either.
I think Nintendo's secretly trying to help the scalpers because what fun is it to collect something valuable if you can't have people scalp? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's all that is now, because it's like impossible to get anything really. Like you can get some stuff used. I know you can get like probably the older ones. Like Mario is really easy to get. You can find used at GameStop.
You can probably go to a
like Mega
dollar
Man
store and get one of
Bowser.
those.
Yeah. But like anything new or like the Splatoon amiibo, I'm still trying to. I go on eBay all the time looking for those to
Go into a
see
Toys
if I
R
can find
Us.
them.
They still have the Inkling Boy and Inkling Girl figures. You're out of luck if you're looking for the 3-pack.
Yeah, like I gotta get the 3-pack because the squid. I don't think we can. You can't buy the squid by itself unless you do it online because we didn't get the special edition here, but they had it in Europe where it came with the squid. So we didn't get that unless you get the 3-pack. That's the only way to get it in America unless you buy it online, which of course scalpers it's like only going to be $40, like the lowest you can find for the squid by itself. So
And the thing is, I was at GameStop the day it was released. I saw the 3-pack there. It was right in front of me. And if I knew that the Splatoon amiibo unlocked different challenge modes within the game, I would have picked that up instead of just one of the amiibos.
yeah, and I think that's kind of why I've been looking for it because it's really the first one. These are like the first 3 amiibo that actually unlock stuff for the games. Like any of the other ones, it's like, well, like for Smash Brothers, really all you do is make your own computer character, and that's really it. They have like your custom moves, and they're either faster or stronger based on how you make the character. But that's really nothing, honestly. It's like it's mostly at that point for Smash Brothers, it's mostly just to have the amiibo as the figure. But like for Splatoon, and I'm assuming they're gonna start doing this for most other games now. It does actually unlock stuff. It's like, it's kind of like on-disc DLC in a sense. Unlocks the challenges and customs.
I promise you those amiibos will be worthless by the time they release the Game of the Year amiibo.
They got so many coming out, and they did announce, like you mentioned, Smash Brothers announcements and stuff. I don't think did they have what were the announcements at the conference? Because I know they had that special 18-minute video, but that wasn't a part of the conference at all.
Ryu.
They announced a bunch of new characters. The Lucas from Mother 3, Roy from Fire Emblem,
That wasn't
and
at the
Ryu
conference,
from
though.
Street Fighter.
It
This
wasn't.
is all the Smash Brothers stuff before the conference.
Yeah.
Then a couple of stages and a bunch of character costumes.
Yeah. So
They had nothing from them during the actual conference.
So that was released before the conference.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because I saw it after. Because I didn't. Because I went online. Because I was looking for like some Treehouse stuff to see what they had throughout E3, and I saw that. But even if it was released before, it still wasn't their conference. Like it still was like I don't know why. I mean, it was 18 minutes, so I guess they could have cut down on it and been like, hey, check out this video to see like all of the stuff we're coming out with. But they could have at least put something in there, like at least just the characters. Even if they didn't announce any of the stage stuff, they could have easily just been like, here are these 3 characters, plus we have way more stuff coming out, even though it was just gonna be like 3 or 4 stages and the costumes. They could have easily just put like a minute or 2 minutes to like, here's 3 new characters, or here's 2 recurring characters, plus a brand new one, and then check this out for everything else we're doing. But they didn't even do that. There was just like Smash Brothers and then conference with everything else.
Look, I really don't care how they announce it. The point is that they gave us that stuff like the day they announced it. So
Yeah, that was really good.
Yeah.
I did love that.
that's good enough for me,
Definitely.
Yeah, that was cool. It's like, it's announced, it's out now. You could get all the stages. The only stuff that they announced that isn't out are like the amiibos and the 2 other stages, the Zelda stage from the 64 version and the Kingdom Castle or Mushroom Kingdom Castle.
And
whatever.
also the Kirby stage for both, I believe. Did the Kirby stage also go for Wii U, or is it only for 3DS?
Oh,
It's for
on it.
both.
Yeah,
Okay, because
that's
3DS,
on it.
3DS sadly only got the Kirby stage. I mean, I like the Kirby stage, although it would have been cool to also get Hyrule Temple and Mushroom Kingdom.
Well, that's not out. Neither of those are out yet, so they're probably going to be for both Wii U and 3DS.
Yep,
But
you
like
can finally have the Kirby stage. So whenever DD flies in the background, he can also be fighting somebody on the stage.
Yeah, Yeah, but I was glad to see that the Hyrule level was going to be in there because that was always my favorite level in the original Smash Brothers game. So I'm glad that's going to be coming up. Most likely end up paying for that to get that, but I did like that announcement, even though it wasn't part of the main conference. It was still really cool, and I did enjoy it. And I realized 2 days ago I was in bed and I was like, oh crap. I pre-ordered Splatoon, so I have that receipt. I have to find it because if you pre-ordered it from GameStop, they gave you the code so you could download the Mii costumes when they were finally out. So I have to find that receipt because I don't know where it is now. Because normally all my receipts is I just keep everything, even if there's nothing. I still have receipts in my Assassin's Creed games, and it's I'm obviously not returning them or doing anything, and I have no idea where that one is. I have to go to my girlfriend's house, and I hope it's in one of the Wii U games I have over there. I don't know where it is though, and it just popped in my head. I was like, oh my goodness, I have those for free, and I have to find that receipt to put the code in and download them. But I thought it was cool. I did like the costumes. They also had I like the Virtua Fighter full costumes that they had in the Heihachi costume from Tekken. I thought that was actually pretty cool. All the other costumes look pretty sweet too. They have Mega Man EXE from Battle Network, which I think is personally my favorite design for Mega Man is the Battle Network one. I always loved that one. They added I think they added Zero, didn't they?
Oh yeah,
Zero would be cool. It would have been cool if they added both versions, the original Zero and then ZX Zero, because I always like that one because he has a more slender design instead of the blocky robot chest and everything. But they both look really cool, and then there's a million other costumes too. But I did enjoy that. That was obviously the best announcement they had, even though it wasn't technically at the conference. But everything else they had was like we mentioned, Star Fox was cool. Paper Jam was sweet. Mario Maker. And then they had the game everybody hates was the Metroid one.
Did you hear they started a petition to try to get Nintendo to cancel it?
I'd heard that, yeah. I think that was the day of or something that got started, and it has a bunch of signatures now.
Honestly, the game would have been better if it was basically like Metroid Prime Hunters, but more on a Borderlands type gameplay. That would have been awesome, and you get to play as Samus and everything.
Yeah,
but instead, we got
four-player
generic cheap cash grab. So.
I mean, it could still be fun. I feel like people adjusted it really fast because when I first saw it, I thought it was a cool concept. I would never buy it because I don't have a 3DS, and even if I did, it wouldn't matter to me.
Yeah, it could be
fun.
But
when it mentioned that it was 4-player co-op, I thought, well, it could easily be really fun. It does look crappy. You can't argue that it does look really, really bad compared to. I mean, considering what they've done with 3DS after all these years, all this time. Games look really good on the 3DS, even if they don't look like, Wii U or anything. They still look really, really freaking good, and then that just doesn't. It just looks like a DS game or something. When the DS first came out, and it was PlayStation graphics handheld or something. That's what it looked like.
I think if people are I wouldn't say overreacting. Okay, I would say overreacting in this instance because, I understand where their anger is coming from. It's a spin-off game, obviously, but basically, I think the timing was probably bad. That's probably where the most of the anger generates from because here you have there hasn't been a regular core Metroid game since Other M, and I know everybody fucking hated that game, and so they finally get a new Metroid game, and it's something completely different. I mean, I'm
basically the same level almost. Is how people see it at least.
I guess maybe it'll motivate Nintendo to release I guess a more traditional Metroid game in the future, and we can just pretend it was just some silly spin-off. It's not going to kill the franchise. I mean, let's be I got a question. Did Metroid Prime Pinball kill the franchise?
No.
Then this isn't going to kill it.
Yeah, people are going to support it. I mean, no matter the franchise, if it's supported, if it's as famous as it is, it would be a bad Mario game coming out. It's not going to matter. It's going to be people hated that one, but they're going to buy the next one if it's
the last
good.
Paper Mario game was almost universally hated.
Sticker stars. I kind of question why my brother got that game.
What?
Where did you
system
get
was
that
one
game?
on?
Yeah, he basically just got the game for Christmas as a bundle gift. So
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Was that 3DS?
That was
Yeah.
3DS. Apparently, they took the entire point of the Paper Mario series and just said, you know what, we don't need it. And I didn't play it. This is just what I've been hearing about. That's what people are complaining about, I guess.
Because I really like the one that they made for the Wii. That was a really good one.
Super
When-
Paper Mario.
Yeah,
Yeah,
where
that's
it
a
had like the
classic.
2D and 3D aspects. That was actually a really good game. That was really fun. And then, obviously the other Mario games and stuff. And yeah, they had a couple other announcements. Like Skylanders is now going to have like a racing game, which I'm pretty sure is completely separate, like a brand new
Yeah,
game.
Skylanders, Superchargers, Racing.
Yeah, so
And
new
they're
figures
supposed
for
to-
that and stuff.
Yeah, they're having Donkey Kong and Bowser as special guest characters.
I question why they even choose them instead of like I don't know Crash Bandicoot. I mean, Activision does own Crash, right?
I'm pretty sure they do.
think they do, yeah.
They might. I think they own both Spyro and Crash at this point.
But I'm still questioning why they're not using Crash. I mean, that's like the perfect opportunity to show off the character again.
Yeah, but they aren't. I don't think.
I guess
either
the
of
whole
those
partnership with
franchises-
Nintendo is at
Yeah.
the front of their minds.
Yeah, because I think they do that if they were really trying to bring those franchises back, and I don't think they are just yet. I'm sure they will at some point in the future, but I think right now it was just like here's two Nintendo characters, and I did like the idea they have for Bowser because they were talking about how one of the specials was going to be like Giga Bowser, and they're like, we'll make something. Nintendo told them to make something brand new, so they have Magma Bowser, which I thought was cool just because it's something new that they might, since Nintendo technically owns it, they could be like, well, now we have this, and we can use that in future games, which I think that's just a cool concept for the future. It might not happen for like years until the next, new Mario game, but I thought that was cool because it's like, well, a new form of Bowser is just something pretty cool. They have like a million new pickups for Mario in every game, so why not? They got cat costumes, like new Bowser, why not? So I did like that.
All I'm gonna say about it is that nothing will ever beat the Mario crossover with NBA Streets.
Yeah.
Oh, but
NBA Streets and I think Final Fantasy. Oh yeah, NBA Streets and Final Fantasy. Or am I thinking of a different game?
I think you are. I don't remember. Well, wait. Maybe you're thinking of.
That 3DS Mario basketball game.
Oh yeah, that's right. Wow.
Mario Hoops 3-on-3.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Mario
that's
Hoops
it.
3-on-3.
I don't know why that just popped into my head.
It's like it's kind of funny how like 2/3 of Mario's like basketball category is like crossovers. First one with real life players, the second one with Final Fantasy characters.
I remember hearing this thing in this video, people talking about Mario. You guys want change. You guys want all this change in the gaming industry, but Mario's been fighting the same bad guy for 30 years. And the
Wart.
guy in the video said,
And Tatanga.
Yeah.
And Wario.
yes, he has been. Then behind him, he showed a wall of all these different Mario games. Also had time to do all this stuff, too.
yeah, got a million games and people still buy them. I mean, even if people want change, it's still good games just work. Same enemies, same premise. It just has to be fun. Add 4 players like Super Mario U and stuff like that, and it's just entertaining. New powers and slightly, new levels and things like that. People are gonna buy them no matter what. So
I still wish they'd remake the Mario Land series. Just because, like, I liked how those games kind of, like, took a different approach with, like, settings and enemies. Mainly because it was made by a completely a different developer than Shigeru Miyamoto. Like, Mario Land 1 had, like, levels based on, like, ancient Egypt, like,
yeah, they're
but that
all-
was, like, more so than just the desert levels that they were using. Then they had, like, the Easter Island head level, and then they had the ancient China level. And then Mario Land 2 had that horror level with a bunch of, like, Asian-themed, like, horror characters in it.
spirits and Onis and
I actually
stuff
remember
like that.
Mario Land 2.
I remember it's Mario Land 3 with the whole pirates and all that.
That was
stuff.
that was also called Wario Land. I think they just put the Mario Land 3 subtitle on there just to give it a connection, even though technically it's supposed to take place right after Mario Land 2 after Wario gets his ass kicked out of the castle.
I think those would do well if they ever did remake those, because they are classic games. People do still play them all the time. And
Actually, I just want to point this out. Because of that Mario Land 3 subtitle, that would make the Wii Wario Land game Super Mario Land 7.
yeah. I guess it technically would, yeah. WarioWare, we got New Legend of Zelda coming out. I guess that's really it. Is the New Legend of Zelda, and everything else is kind of like it's still the main franchises, but there aren't main games. They're all like Mario Maker or the Paper Jam game, which I guess you could kind of count as a main game, or depending on how you look at it.
The one thing I heard that wasn't announced in the trailer, in the Nintendo E3 announcements, Fatal Frame.
Yeah,
They're
I
bringing
was
a new
really
Fatal Frame game to the Wii U.
Yeah, they announced that last year. I think they had super early footage of it. It was like, we're working on this, and that was it. Now that was something else that I was looking for. I didn't really look anything up afterwards. I probably should, just to see if they announced a date, which I kind of doubt they did if they didn't even bother putting it in the conference. But I was really looking forward to that because I've never played a Fatal Frame game. I've always wanted to because they're really good horror games. And so because I never experienced it, it was like, and I know the little bit that I know is that it's supposed to be a remake of the first game, or at least a retelling, kind of like the Resident Evil remake. So I was like, well, that has me really excited because if it's starting the whole thing over, I can start from the beginning, but it looks, it's brand new mechanics. Obviously, it'll use the gamepad as the camera, and you look around the room and stuff for real, and you take pictures and stuff. And there was nothing of that. It was announced last year. And then it was like nothing, and that was definitely like the most mature thing they had, at the announcement. And there was like none of that. It was all, I guess, typical Nintendo fanfare.
Speaking of the complete opposite of mature, didn't they also give show a trailer for like Yoshi's Woolly World or something?
Yeah.
What is this, like the fourth time they've attempted to reboot that franchise?
They had one on Wii, right?
Let's see. First, they had the Super Nintendo game. I guess the N64 game was technically a sequel or something, so I really don't count it as a reboot. Then they had Yoshi's Island DS, which had a stupid 4-character mechanic. Then there was Yoshi's New World, which was basically just a level hack of Yoshi's Island with better graphics. And now we get Yoshi's Woolly World, which is basically Yoshi's Island with better graphics.
Yeah.
Kind of question why they didn't just just do a new Yoshi story. I don't think.
I think this kind of will be like that.
Yeah, it probably would be more like Yoshi's Story because
it just looked to me like Yoshi's Story crossed with Kirby's Epic Yarn.
Yeah, I got
it's Yoshi by himself. It's not like the Yoshi's Island stuff.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Not to mention, I think Yoshi's Story was like one of the very first 2.5D platformers. So I guess it had 2.5D platformers. So I guess it was running on that. Could you call it a graphical gimmick?
I guess so. Like the later FX chip or whatever for the Super Nintendo, like the Star Fox type of thing. Yeah.
Okay, I gotcha. And then that one was meant to show off the N64's like sprite processing. I don't know what the hell DS was doing, but besides that 4-character gimmick, New World was kind of like I don't know what style that game went for, but yeah, I think Woolly World's like more in the style of like what the Super Nintendo's FX chip and the N64's sprite processing was trying to do, like
just show off new things.
Yeah.
That they can do, and it does look like it has some cool mechanics. A lot. I mean, obviously, it's a lot like Kirby's Epic Yarn, except you don't really turn into anything. It's just in the style of yarn. You have like you eat stuff and it turns into a ball of yarn, and different colors do different things. I think like purple bounces around, the white ones are like the fastballs, like baseballs, sort of.
okay.
So they all different colors have different tactics, and it's multiplayer too. It's at least 2 players. And you can even eat your partner and turn them into a Yoshi egg.
Okay,
that
was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, and you can throw them up to higher platforms, or just use them as a weapon in general.
Although those yarn ball power-ups you're talking about are kind of similar to how in the Super Nintendo game you could like transform into like, I don't know, a mole tank or something and a helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So it does look cool. So I think it'll probably do well, but obviously it's not going to be like the biggest thing ever because it's Yoshi, who is still important. Of course, I think we all can agree that, but
the only
Yoshi
thing
game
more important
alone.
than Yoshi himself are his voice clips because they have been used in every game since Yoshi's Story in 1997, with only minimal additions since.
Yeah, keeping it simple. And I'm curious to see how well that game does do because it does look really cool. I do like the aesthetic. Like I said, like I like how the games look and stuff. I know honestly, I just have no interest in most Nintendo games outside of Smash Brothers. I honestly don't have a lot of interest. Like the new Legend of Zelda seems like it could be really cool. They didn't really show any of that off at the conference either. They showed more of that last year than they did this year, I think, where it was talking about like, you know, the horse.
I think they said they wanted to focus on games coming out
This
year
yeah,
or really early next year.
Yeah, and I guess that's fine. I mean, they did, you know, with those games coming out, they did show off some things that we didn't even know about, like the Metroid game, and that's coming out fairly recently, or coming out fairly soon. And then, like Yoshi's Woolly World, which I hadn't seen really anything of. I honestly thought this was the second game, and I guess it's because I've seen so much footage of it beforehand. I thought this was the second Yarn game for Yoshi, but it's still the first one. So apparently I've just seen so much footage of that game, and now that's going to get its own amiibo, and there's going to be an 8-bit Mario amiibo, and I'm curious to see how those look, because I just like the idea that they're talking about. Like, I want to know if it's going to be like 2D 8-bit Mario, or if they're going to make an actual 3D version, but it's all 8-bit blocks and stuff. And they have, like, you know, Game & Watch is getting his own with multiple poses and stuff, which I think is kind of a cool concept, because otherwise he would literally just be a 2D figure.
I guarantee
so it's
you,
cool.
the if they ever make one, the Game & Watch amiibo that shows him in the fire pose will probably go for the most because that's his best move.
Yeah, so it should be pretty cool. Like, it, you know, more amiibo coming out, I guess that's good for the collectors. For people like me, it doesn't make that much of a difference. It's like the Splatoon ones I want. If they ever start making them and somehow it adds more stuff to Smash Brothers, then sure, that would be interesting too.
Provided they don't first, you know, storm the warehouses. Because I think it's getting
Yeah,
to the
get
point
robbed,
where
yeah.
it's probably going to get to the point where they're just going to start raiding a bunch of warehouses. And I don't know, Nintendo might decide just to screw with people not to release certain amiibos and just abandon those warehouses. And then they can just, you know, break them open and just start, you know, taking them like they were Cheetah Men 2 cartridges.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think the last 2 episodes we're complaining about the amiibo, so I don't want to get back into that about them not having enough and stuff.
Luckily, they only
heard
heard us. Well, that's stretching it because that last podcast wasn't even released on this channel. So maybe one or two people are probably just, you know, they didn't see our first podcast of us bitching about them. The second one's on another channel, so this might be the first time they're hearing about it. But we're probably sick of it at this point.
Yeah, because we've been talking about it a lot, and I still have to upload the other 2. I still haven't even uploaded the other 2 that we've done, which I guess is okay since we've only managed to do 4, or this is like the 3rd one technically.
I don't know.
Well, I've only been in because I missed the 1 week, so this would be like my 2nd or 3rd.
We have like a bunch of unreleased podcasts, which we'll only give
I think,
to you.
I only have 2, so yeah, this is still only our 4th episode, and we've been doing a couple weeks because I've been gone a bunch and stuff like that.
We will only give you the other podcast if you donate to our Patreon. If you donate 1,000 to us, you will find our controversial police brutality podcast.
So, I guess we can move from Nintendo to some of the other good, you know, more entertaining things of E3. I did love the other press conferences I watched. I watched like 6 or 7. There were like a million this year, which I thought was insane. Like, everything had a press conference. Like, Square Enix had one, which they may have before. I never heard of it before. Oculus Rift had its own press conference, which I didn't bother watching that one, but I was like, because after a while I was like, well, I'm not gonna watch all of these. Like, I watched like the big ones. I watched, you know, Ubisoft, Square Enix, like I said, Square Enix, at first time I'd ever seen theirs. But I watched theirs, the big three: Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, EA, Ubisoft, and Square. And I enjoyed them all. I thought, even with the Nintendo stuff, I still enjoyed it for the couple of games that were brand new that looked really great, as well as like the Smash Brothers announcements that were really cool. And I surprised a couple of my friends because they had no idea. And so I was like, they asked me, I was like, what you download? And I was like, Ryu from Street Fighter. And they were all like blown away. So it was like us just using Street Fighter for like 2 straight hours. We just kept playing this on Ryu. So that was fun. We messed around with that. But there were a lot of great things. Like, obviously, Sony had the big reveals for the Final Fantasy VII remake, which just made everybody just jizz their pants and lose their minds. They also had Shenmue 3, which was pretty insane. I was very surprised by that one. And then The Last Guardian was officially announced. So they really did kind of blow it out of the water this year, which was really nice. Like, even though I honestly have, like, no interest in any of those games. Like, Final Fantasy VII, I think it's cool. I played it when I was younger, and I never beat it. And I think we talked about this in the last, where we were talking about it before.
I'm not sure if we ever did, but I've never actually played Final Fantasy VII. However, back when I was in my high school debate team, I had a friend who would always play it on an emulator, and all he would do is just race Chocobo. It was fun.
Yeah, so, of course, tons of people are losing their minds on that. It did look great. I mean, it looked like the Advent Children movie. I'd love to see what it looks like because the one that's coming out is, 15, I believe? The new one that's supposed to be coming out. That one looks beautiful as it is. And then this one, obviously, it was this pre-rendered CG cutscene, so, of course, it looked even better than that. But I'm excited to see how it does actually look. And, of course, the big question is what's going to change and, what are they going to add to it and stuff like that for this re-release? Because, of course, they're not just going to literally remake the entire thing and nothing's different. So it'll be exciting to see what they do and if they maybe add costumes. I mean, that is something they could do. That wasn't something we really had back then where it was like, alternate costumes and stuff. So they might have that. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of DLC packs. Like, play as every, look like every main character ever or something. Stuff like that.
Is it because you want to go through the whole game as Cross-Dresser Cloud?
Some people probably would. I'm sure they would. And just keep the costume and you can just wear it all the time, the whole game. But it looked cool. I did enjoy the cutscene. I thought it looked really nice. The Shenmue 3 thing, I actually liked that one the most out of all 3 games that were kind of brought back just because as much as the Final Fantasy VII thing is like everyone kind of just fell in love with that because it was the first 3D, Final Fantasy. It was kind of like the first big JRPG that we got in America. So that's really why it's so popular, of course.
People have been
even though people
for
don't really admit that.
A remake of Final Fantasy VII for years.
Yeah, so like that was really cool, and the Last Guardian thing was actually just really cool and surprising because that had been announced, and that kind of fell. All 3 of these games were the games that were on like that infinite list. Like, all right, here's Beyond Good and Evil 2, and that's where's that at? And then when Last Guardian was announced, and that was 2009, I believe, when that was first announced. So these were like 3 of the biggest games that were always in those limbo lists, like the games that everyone wants to see, like Half-Life 3 and all those games. So it was really cool that they had that, and for me, I thought Shenmue 3 was the best one because the other games, like Last Guardian was announced, but it was just a new game from the people that did like Ico and Shadow of the Colossus, so of course it was wanted, but it was just a new IP. Final Fantasy VII would just be a cool looking remake of a really wanted game, but Shenmue 3 was like the final installment of a really beloved franchise, and it was more than just, here's a remake or here's the game finally being announced. It's like, here's a game that's been dead far longer than anything else on any list, like longer than even Half-Life 3, which has been forever. Even longer than that was Shenmue 3. And it's like this guy who's had this story written out for years is finally going to get to make the game that he wants to make. And I think that's why I like it so much more for the real life aspect of it more than just the video game part of it, because it's like he finally gets to do it himself. And I thought it was funny. It's like, I hope you guys support us on Kickstarter. Like, that's not going to make $1 billion in 2 minutes. So I just thought that was funny, as if they weren't going to get all the money they needed. But I did love that. I thought that was really cool. And it's like, I was incredibly surprised. I think everyone would be far more than Final Fantasy VII, even though I think that's what people wanted more because it's Final Fantasy VII. But I just love the Shenmue stuff.
I've actually never played any of the Shenmue games. The only thing I've heard about them is the voice acting.
Yeah.
And that's about it. Which leads to the very important question: what will the voice acting quality be like in this new game? And if it's good, will there be a bad voice acting mode?
That would be pretty funny. I'd love to see that in the game. Bad voice acting mode.
Every game should have a bad voice acting mode.
They're really good. I'm really curious actually now, if since they're obviously getting a third game, are they gonna remaster the first two? Or not even remaster, but like full on remake those? I know that would be a lot more money as well than just remastering them, but I think it's a much more valid question now, like re-release them. I would assume it's coming out because I don't believe they mentioned it was exclusive to PlayStation, so they could release 1 and 2 as a combo on Xbox One and PS4, pseudo remastered. I mean, as much as you can from a Dreamcast game, but I guess you could because that was the same era as PS2, and they remade Resident Evil Code Veronica in HD. Even though it's like, it looks better because
They also remade a bunch of their Dreamcast games for the GameCube at that point.
Yeah, that's true. I wish they would freaking remake Power Stone 2. I've been waiting for that, and that's what I've been waiting to have come out because that's what I used to play before Smash Brothers came out. That was the 4-player game I used to always play. It was Power Stone 2. I just loved that game. It was so fun, and the weapons were way cooler in that than they are in Smash Brothers. If I'm being totally honest, they actually had like all sorts of crazy stuff, and it was just fun. Like, that was just a really fun game, and I think they had alternate costumes in that you could buy and stuff too, if I remember
Yeah,
right.
I think so.
So there were a lot of crazy mechanics because they had the story mode. The game was really simple because the story mode was like 4 levels, and then like maybe like 4 or 5 or 6 levels, and then some were just
4 levels and 2 bosses.
Yeah, there was like the pyramid boss thing that was like a robot, and then the final boss, which is at the end of a scrolling level, and there are like 3 scrolling levels. And one of the levels was honestly just 2 different maps. Like, you fight on one ship, and then the ship crashed, and you land in the area, then you just beat all the enemies there, and you finish the level. It was basically just beat the computer. It was like Smash Brothers. It was like it's not really a story mode. It was like you beat the computers on this level, and then you go to the next level, and that was pretty much it. But it was still really fun, and I've always wanted that to come back. And I remember my cousin, because he really loved that game, so he was the one, because he owned it. He was the one who like unlocked all the items and stuff like that. And then they re-released it on PSP when that first came out. It was both games together. It was like the Power Stone Ultimate Collection or something. So it was like Power Stone 1, 2, and then Power Stone Ultimate, which was basically the first game, I think, with the 2 characters in it or something like that. You could play as one of the bosses.
I think the game was just Power Stone 1 and 2, only now you could play as the extra characters from 1 in 2 and the extra characters from 2 in 1.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think the other game they did sort of a similar thing with was the digital release of Sonic the Fighters, where they let you play as characters that were planned for the game and could still be accessed via cheating devices, but were never actually finished. So they finished them and put them in the game.
That's pretty cool.
I think it was just 1 character, though. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe it was 2. I don't actually own it. I mean, I own the Gems Collection version, but I don't own the digital version.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen Power Stone. That's always like the one game I always wish would come back, because I think I'd buy it if they did like a full remake, or even if it was just remastered and you could actually play online with people. I'd love to play that, because it would be because it was like an actual 3D realm. It wouldn't be like Smash Brothers where it's 2D back and forth. It would actually be a full-on 3-dimensional battlefield, and I'd love to play that because it was the same idea where it's just crazy powers. All the characters have basically smash attacks. Everyone has 2 automatically. You have 1 on the ground, 1 in the air, separate. So it would just be a perfect game to just bring back, and I don't know why they don't. I think it would sell well. Yeah.
There's a topic we could have for this podcast. What games that have been gone for a while do you want to come back?
I got a million of those, of course. I'd love for that to come back. I'd love for the Warriors. I've would love for them to do a HD remake of that game and make it online, because that was a really good game by Rockstar. It was basically, for anyone who hasn't played, it was GTA without guns and cars, but it was actually really well done, and it's based off of the film The Warriors, of course. And it really does it does true to that film. Like, you play through the film, but like I think the first 3/4 of the game is like takes place like 8 months before the film actually even starts. So you get to learn more about the characters, and they make new characters that come in and stuff. And it was just really great. And you unlock different areas that you can travel to within New York. And it was fun. And then there's a whole, after you beat the game, there's an arcade game that you unlock that's basically Streets of Rage. It's like a 2D beat 'em up game inside that game, and you can play through all of that. And then you unlock those characters in that game as well to use in multiplayer. So there was a ton of content. I'd love to see that redone in HD plus have online, so you could always play with someone.
Like, that's how you do a licensed game.
Yeah, and that is one of my favorites. I think that's probably one of the best movie-based video games, probably the best out there, if not.
That one Riddick game.
Yeah, probably that would be another one too. Like the Riddick game, the Warriors. Somehow X-Men Origins Wolverine is like what the best comic book game outside of like Spider-Man 2. Like those are like kind of the same level for me, because that's actually the Wolverine movie everyone wanted in the game. Like if you've seen X-Men Origins Wolverine, obviously everyone hates that one, but the game is like just phenomenal. Like he kills people like he does in the comics. Like he rips people up, and it's just violent. And it's like immature because he's like he cuts people's heads off, people stab him through the heart, and all sorts of crazy crap. And it's just a fun freaking game. Like the whole thing is just insanely bloody and fun to play. But the Warriors, I would definitely love to see come back and have HD. Like everyone who loves Resident Evil, I still want Resident Evil 2 and 3 remade like they did the original one, especially 3. Like I know a lot of people consider 2 to be the best one. I never thought that. I always thought, for the longest time, I thought it was 3, but now the remake is the best one for sure. But I just love 3. I love both of them, but 3 I always love because of Nemesis, of course, and it's dynamic based on the decisions you make. You know, if you fight him here, then you won't see him there, but if you don't fight him, he could show up anywhere. Like he'll, you run away from him and you escape, and then he'll just show up like an hour randomly, like you're just in the middle of getting an item or doing whatever, and you just walk out the door and he's just standing there, and now you have to fight him. And that's why I always loved that game, because it was so dynamic. But both of those being remade would be amazing to me.
I'd never played Resident Evil 2, but the way you described it makes it sound like, okay, I just finished gathering all the stuff in that room. There was a whole bunch of zombies in there, but I made it past there. So now I'm going to leave this place and, oh, come on, really?
It's just like that. Like, if you fight them, it's basically, you won't have to deal with them until the next big moment. And I remember the last time I played it, I was just playing the old games just to play them. I think it was when I downloaded it on PS3. I was just playing through it. And so the first time I fought him, and then the second time I was like, I'm going to run from him every single battle just to see what it changes. And so I ran, I escaped. I think I was playing for like 45 minutes. I'm just running around. I saved. And I came out of this room like randomly, and he's standing there. And this is like, I guess it would be hard to explain. But for anyone who's played the game, who knows this area, there's this spot between there's this restaurant that you go into. So there's like this restaurant, then there's the back alley, and it's basically just an eye-shaped hallway. So you have the two ends like an eye, and the save point is in the long, slender portion where you can only run in two directions. And so I walk out, and he's standing to my right, and I just turn right back in the thing, because I was like, I wasn't prepared for that, and it freaked me out. Like, just here's this guy standing right next to you, ready to kill you. And it was just fun. Like, I'd love to see that in HD, and if they did add some stuff. And that was, of course, it's very different now, but that was the one that actually added mercenaries. That was the beginning of the mercenaries modes, and it was totally different back then, because it was actually really scary, and then they changed it to where it was a points-based. You just kill the enemies, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, like, it was still for points, but it was like it was still like playing through the regular game. Like, you had to get from point A to point B in like 3 minutes, and every kill that you did gave you more time. And if you saved people, you also got more time, but obviously you would have to be fast enough to get to those people, and if you weren't fast enough, then you wasted your time going to try to save them, and they were already dead. So it was like you had to really map out the area. It's the same area every time, but it's like you map out the area, you choose your character. It was like it was the actual mercenaries from Resident Evil 3, so it was Carlos, Nikolai, and Mikhail. And like Carlos and Mikhail had the easy stuff. Or I guess Carlos and Nikolai did. I can't remember. I think Mikhail was the villain. One of them was bad. And then he was like the Wesker character who had like one knife and one herb. And I remember last time I played it, I was like, I'm gonna beat this with this knife and this herb, and I did it, and I got an F, and I got like $100, and I was so pissed off. I was like, I figured it would balance it out. Like if you pick the character who gets a knife, it would like quadruple the points, and it didn't. It was just like, how am I supposed to get any of these points? And you gave me the character with like one knife and one green herb and one poison herb, and I beat it, and I got like $100. I was like, okay, whatever. But if those were remade, I would love them. They would be amazing. Of course, after all the games they've had, they could put all the costumes in for Jill. They could, I guess, make something else up for Carlos and the other characters, and maybe add some new weapons or new something. I don't know. Do kind of what they did. Maybe not retcon it like the original game, but just add something in there, or some stuff, some new content or whatever. But I loved it. I would love to see those two come back for sure.
If I had to say one, at the top of my list would be Darkstalkers.
Yeah.
I still have Darkstalkers 3 for the PlayStation 1. One of my favorite games.
Now, I think the question is, would you have it come back 2D, or would you guys rather have it come back Street Fighter style? With like
Street Fighter 4 style for sure.
Okay.
They could do it.
I
still remember when they did the whole Darkstalkers Resurrection thing. Where they released one of the versions of Darkstalkers 3 without all the characters in it. And thought that would be enough to drum up enough money to convince Capcom to do Darkstalkers 4.
Yeah.
I think that was around the time when they announced if a game doesn't sell 1 million copies, they're not even going to consider a sequel for it.
Probably not the best option to do that then. And re-release with less content. Never a good idea. Because they have, like, Darkstalkers still has its support. I mean, who knows when we're going to get the next Marvel vs. Capcom. But Morgan and Felicia are both Darkstalkers.
Yeah.
And those are the only two in the last one, right? Because I know in Marvel vs. Capcom 2 they had a bunch of them, but...
Marvel vs. Capcom 3, they have Morgan, Felicia, and Hishenko.
Okay, I didn't know she was Darkstalkers. I forgot she was Darkstalkers, yeah.
Wait, you said 3 or 2?
3.
3.
Oh, yeah, those are it.
Because I know in 2 they have pretty much all of them.
No,
And then they had
a lot of
just
them.
5.
Just 5. Well, how many characters are in Darkstalkers? I thought it was only like 8 of them, or 12.
It's like, I don't know, 15, 18?
Yeah, around
I guess
15
that's
or
still-
something.
Yeah, I guess that's still a lot more than I was thinking. But, they always have their support. Of course, Morgan for her looks, I think. I always liked Felicia as a character. I always thought she was a cool fighting character. I never use Morgan. I don't really use Hisenko too much. But that's always like the little support they give to Darkstalkers, and that's about it. It's like Marvel vs. Capcom, and
Everyone's saying
about
the
it.
least you could do is put someone like Dimitri or John Talbane in the game. They're the vampire and the werewolf.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean,
I think that Darkstalkers 4 would basically be a really big game to come out. You could add in a bunch of different new characters like you would for any other fighting game.
yeah. I think that would be interesting to see if they did ever decide to bring it back. I don't know if that'll, who knows with any franchise really. But I think
There was
that would
this
be
art
cool.
contest. there was this art contest where you would submit a bunch of ideas for new Darkstalkers characters. I actually participated in that for a while. I sent in one entry, but everyone sent in one entry. And I think the grand prize was that you got a download of the game, and I think the artist for Darkstalkers Resurrection would draw your character.
That's pretty cool.
Man, I should have entered that one because I got a lot of monster ideas.
I think it would be interesting to see a fighting franchise come back like that, though. I mean, it's not like there are that many anyway. It's really just 3, because Virtua Fighter hasn't been out in a long time, and Bloody Roar hasn't been out in forever.
And Fatal Fury.
Yeah.
Yeah, they haven't even
But then they
continued
have.
that.
Then a lot of people kind of. I'm getting tongue tied right now. I think a lot of people count King of Fighters as Fatal Fury, pretty much.
Yeah, especially the
Sure, it's not actually named Fatal Fury, but
Yeah, but that was like the subtitle in Fatal Fury, basically the King of Fire tournament in this story. Though it's not mostly because of the whole King of Fire games itself. I mean, there's basically like some other story elements they left hanging, especially the one with Rock and Garo, Marco the Wolf. I mean, there's like something about him basically joining up and become up with the whole main antagonist, possibly him they become bad guy.
do you know a whole lot about the Fatal Fury games?
Of course, it's like one of my favorite fighting game series made by SNK. It's very innovative at its time, especially with the whole 2D playing gameplay for a 2D fighter.
Yeah, I think a lot of the fighting games have kind of fallen to the wayside compared to
Pretty much.
pretty much any
Right
other.
now, all we have is Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat,
Tekken,
Tekken,
Guilty Gear,
Guilty Gear,
Skullgirls.
Blaze Blue.
Yes, Blaze Blue. What else?
Like Skullgirls, I don't really count as a franchise. So like as far as like
I
franchises,
think we're talking about major fighting games right
like I do
now.
love Skullgirls, of course. I don't know. I wonder if I don't
As
think
much
they'll
as
do
I
a
like
sequel to that.
Skullgirls, I don't think people count it as a major fighting game.
I wonder if we'll get a sequel to that because they do have a lot of updates. They've added like 5 or 6 characters, but I wonder if they're gonna make a full-fledged sequel at some point, or just add characters and just add their stories to it.
There's
stuff
that whole
like that.
beta with Endless. I didn't know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know
but
what that
didn't
is.
try
I
it out.
downloaded that. Because I got the game on sale on Steam, so I haven't even played it yet, but I downloaded it and I got all the characters because I love the demo. I played the crap out of the demo when it first came out, and so I do love the game. I love the art style. The moves are really cool, and they reference a lot of different anime with the moves too, which is pretty sweet. But I do wonder if that'll become a franchise or if they'll just stick with adding more characters to it. But as far as big fighting franchises, we do have they're kind of like the big 3 is like Tekken, Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and like we do have
We do get some of the other games here and there, but mostly it's just those 3.
and like Guilty Gear. I feel like it does come out a lot, but I feel like for some reason, which is weird, I feel like Guilty Gear as well as Blaze Blue, because they're obviously the same company. I feel like they don't get as much recognition as they probably should because those have both been out just not just as long, but nearly as long as like Tekken has, and they still come out very frequently. I feel frequently enough where they come out every couple years or so. They just don't get the same recognition even though they've been out just as long, and they have even with anime style to them, they still don't get the same sort of recognition as even King of Fighters did.
Let's not forget about the music. It's like the main thing that everybody liked about the games.
Yeah, but it's like interesting characters. The fighting styles are really fun in those games, art style and music. But they just I only ever seem to see those on Steam, and that's it. Like everything else is like, oh, there's a new Tekken, or obviously Mortal Kombat's gonna get a ton of coverage because it's Mortal Kombat, even if it's bad for the because it's the news or something. Mortal Kombat came out, but everything
That's
else,
one of the big trends recently. reacting to all Mortal Kombat X fatalities and X-rays.
stuff,
That was the big thing on YouTube for a while.
yeah, it's cool. I've only played it once. My friend had it, and it was pretty fun. It felt slower paced than Mortal Kombat 9 did. Like the combos didn't seem as fluent as they did in the last game, but it was still definitely fun. Like I like the different styles where you could choose the different moves for the people, which kind of takes it back to like Deadly Alliance, where you pick the 3 fighting styles, and one of course was just your weapon. And I actually thought that was pretty cool, but that was really like my only experience. I didn't want to know the story, and I didn't want to look at too many of the fatalities. You always end up seeing the same couple in all the videos too. They always show like the Ermac one, and like one where someone, like I think the Johnny Cage one, and those are like 2, and then a couple more is always the same couple that people always show. But they're still pretty crazy and good.
Are we still on the topic of what games we would like to see come back?
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
So Billy, Kyle, anything?
Okay, I mentioned beforehand about Fatal Fury, so I can go name another fine game series that I want coming back, which I'm actually kind of thinking of World Heroes, but at least its concept of having historical characters with exaggerated characteristics fighting each other, that's kind of game I want back. But another game series that I probably would want to see make a comeback is, oh crap, there's a lot.
There are many. So many.
Okay,
Just pick one.
Comic Zone.
Yeah, Comic Zone needs to
Yeah.
have some sort of reimagining, I guess. Well, not reimagining, but just a new game, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
If they did do a remaster, or like a full-on remake, would you want it to stay in that sort of comic book 2D style, or would you want it to be maybe like 2.5D, I guess, kind of like the new
that,
Double Dragon?
But for it to make it more interesting, what if it basically do like different, I don't know, styles of comics? Yeah, that would make.
That'd actually be cool.
God, I can't even think of the freaking
Actually,
name by the
just
company.
keep Sketch Turner the same style throughout the whole game, so that he has to like react to different other styles of comics. Like I don't know, maybe the plot of the game is like Sketch Turner is just drawing his comics and like usual. I mean, it could just be the same plot as the first game. I don't know. Maybe he just like bought other comic books, and maybe the villain of his comic just ends up, I don't know, trying to create. I don't know. Just do something like with other art styles or other types of comics. Like I don't know. Maybe there can be like a manga level where Sketch has to go from like right to left the whole time or something. I don't know. And just like have him react to like I don't know all the weeaboo kawaii-ness.
Anime stuff.
Like basically just him yelling "what the fuck" every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the other game. I can't think of the name of this game at all, but there is one like that where God, and it's by the people. I don't know if you guys remember Explosion Man.
Yeah.
I've heard of the name, but I have never played that.
Isn't that one game that's on Steam that basically showcased all the generations of video game sprites, like going from the classic Atari sprites all the way to 16-bit?
I don't think it does.
I remember there was like some sort of maze game on WiiWare that had that kind of theme.
It's I'm trying to remember the name of the company. Twisted Pixel. That's the company. They made a game, and I can't think of the name of the game, but it's kind of like what you mentioned, where the character is a comic. The main character, the main hero of this specific comic book, and his comic book gets canceled, so he has to go into other comic books. And it's kind of the exact same thing, kind of like what you guys said. It's a little different because it's like very adult humor, even though I guess it's even closer to Comic Zone. But I think it might end up being similar to that. But I do think it could easily be different. But I think it would definitely get comparisons to that even as a remake, because that game was like really popular as an indie game. That was, I guess, when they were really indie, because that was like the second game they made, and it just like really blew up because it was like he's the new age 21st century comic, and then he goes into like Conan the Barbarian is one of the comics you go into. you go into like a 50s comic book where you can't swear, all the swearing is like bleeped out and stuff, and then they have a manga comic where his costume, basically he changes costume every time, and then that one he looks like Cloud. He gets Cloud's hair and he gets like a long scarf and stuff. So it would be interesting. Like if they did, they'd have to worry about not making it too similar to that.
I wonder what would
Although it
happen
would be
if
different.
Sketch Turner went into an indie comic. I don't know.
Eh,
Actually, just imagine like all the different kinds of comics that Sketch Turner could go into.
like a Frank Miller style comic, specifically Sin City or his run on Daredevil.
Honestly, I think Sketch would fit right in with one of those, just because all you do in those comics is just beat the hell out of people and curse a lot. So that's great for Sketch.
Or at least some sort of newspaper funny comics.
Oh God. Or like a Japanese 4-common or something.
It might be the same thing as a newspaper.
Exactly, it is the same thing. It's kind of funny. We're throwing around all these ideas, but like we're not thinking of things of like what Sketch Turner could do or say in these worlds.
Do or say this world. Okay, I guess for the newspaper 4-common thing, I guess he'll just be like doing a bunch of different kind of gags, seeing how that's like the whole point of those things.
Okay, I know. Instead of having a crowbar as a weapon, he has a newspaper. He just whacks, things on the head with newspapers.
And maybe we can just throw in a Calvin and Hobbes Garfield reference or two on there.
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea. Okay.
How about you, Billy?
Okay, so there's 2 games to mind that I would think of to get remade. One, and I know this is gonna sound, it's an EA game basically. One game I've always wanted them to remake or have an HD remaster of is Need for Speed 3, just because that game was fucking amazing. Because I don't know, that was the first game where they really had police pursuits, but it wasn't cinematic, or it wasn't free roaming. It was just basic tracks. I just want that game in high definition. Plus, the online community for that game was really, really good for almost a decade. Most of the I think it sort of died out in 2012 though. I don't know why. And basically, it was also the first Need for Speed game where they had DLC, but it was free. I mean, this isn't for the PlayStation version, obviously. It's for the PC version. But basically, I just want that remade in HD. Plus, I want the police modes they introduced in High Stakes in that game as well. Actually, the PC version of High Stakes has all of Need for Speed 3's tracks. So I would just normally say High Stakes, except I also want Need for Speed 3's music to carry over into this remake. You know what I mean? And the other game I'm thinking of, just because I think it would work really well in a modern, with better graphics and processing. You ever heard of an N64 game called Body Harvest?
Body Harvest?
It was made by the same developer as Grand Theft Auto 3.
Yeah, actually, that's new to me.
Okay, so Body Harvest is this really cool game. It's like a sci-fi shooter where you go around. It's kind of free roaming, but there's still technically levels where you just go back in time to these periods and places in time to just shoot aliens. And basically, what you can do is there's also puzzles to solve where you just go into buildings or temples and just they almost have sort of Legend of Zelda style temples in some areas. There's just a lot of really cool stuff in that game. There's a lot of exploring, there's a lot of shooting. There's also vehicles, you can fly a plane in it, you can maneuver a tank and a boat and all this other cool stuff. And I think it would work a lot better nowadays because that was just for the 64, and you can tell they had to really cheapen up the graphics to fit all of that stuff in there. But you can have a lot more on a modern day console. I know it's sort of a basic overview, but it sounds like a game that would probably work really well if it were made today.
It definitely does sound like an awesome game to play.
Yeah, it definitely is. Basically, your main character is a male version of Samus. So think of it as the Metroid 64 game that we never got, but then did it anyway.
That would have been awesome. or is awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty fun game, actually. Oh, actually, when I heard about the Rare Collection, one of the first things that came to my mind is I'm glad that Blast Corps is getting a re-release for one reason and one reason only. Blast Corps was one of the only, I think it was the only Rare game that didn't have a battery backups for saves. Instead, it used the N64 controller pack, and everybody knows that the N64 controller pack sucked. Seriously, those things format themselves like it was their birthright.
So what did I miss?
I gave my recommendations for games that should be remade, and I decided on Need for Speed 3 and Body Harvest.
It is unfortunately 5:31, which I didn't realize. We were supposed to be out of here at like 5. Which
Time flies when you're having fun.
No surprise they didn't check the rooms like normal. But we do have to go before they do come in here, and then we have to like rush to end the episode. But I guess we technically got through the topic. We were going to talk about something else, which I can't even remember now. It was going to be E3 and then something else. Yeah, spiritual successors. Yeah, stuff like that.
Next time on the JMCC podcast, we talk about spiritual successors. Mighty Number 9, Bloodstained, Ukulele, Allison Road, all that good stuff.
Not guaranteed.
We'll probably remember. Mighty Number 9 does come out very soon, too.
This September.
Yeah. So that should be interesting.
Will all the bullshit be worth it? Find out next time on the JMCC podcast. Or when one of us actually bothers to buy Mighty Number 9 and play it.
Yeah, I think it's actually cheaper. I think it's like 20, not 20. I think it's $30 though. So that should be pretty good. I think it'll help sell the game for sure. But if you guys have any comments, anything you guys want us to talk about, of course you can put that down in the comment section below. Anything new or old, nerdy or not nerdy, we'll find some way to talk about it and then forget and talk about something else. So either way, please put your comments down in the comment section below, and thanks for listening.